All right, let's dig in. We're going deep into composting today.
Literally digging in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're diving into chapter 5.
Yeah.
Where we'll break down all those different composting methods.
Right.
You know, I used to think composting was simple.
Oh, yeah.
Just toss stuff in a pile, right?
Right.
But it turns out
it's an art.
It really is. It's like a whole art to it.
Uh-huh.
There's so much to consider.
Absolutely.
Like which method's best for you?
Yeah, what are your needs?
Exactly. You know, are you a casual composter?
Right.
Or are you like hardcore?
Do you have a big yard, a little yard?
Exactly. So to kick things off, let's compare those two classics. The traditional compost pile.
The OG?
Yes. Versus the trendy tumbler. They both get the job done.
They do?
But in very different ways, right?
For sure.
So what are some key things we should consider when choosing between the two?
Well, with the traditional pile, you know, that's like the slow cooking method. Simple, cost-effective.
Can handle tons of material.
Right, right.
So basically, you just pick a spot, layer your organic materials, and let nature do its thing.
So I'm guessing that's perfect for someone who has a lot of space?
Yeah, if you've got the room.
And they're not in a hurry.
Exactly.
But what if you're like me?
Yeah.
You know, an apartment dweller.
Okay.
With limited space.
Right.
And I want things to happen fast.
Impatient?
A little bit.
Well, then maybe a tumbler's for you.
Really?
Yeah, those are like the express lane. They're enclosed, they rotate.
Okay.
That speeds everything up.
Okay.
Because of better aeration, you see.
Interesting.
Plus, they're great for keeping pests out.
Oh, that's a big one.
Everything's contained, yeah.
Okay, that's tempting.
Right.
But there's got to be a downside, right?
Well, of course, tumblers do cost more up front.
Okay.
And you can only sit so much in them.
Makes sense.
Great for small households.
Yeah.
Or if you need compost, like yesterday.
Right. But if you've got a huge garden, tons of yard waste.
Yeah.
Might not be the best fit.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, yeah, it really depends.
So traditional for the spacious and patient.
Right.
Tumblers for, like, the quick and compact.
Yeah, I like that.
But let's say you're all about that nutrient-packed compost.
Oh, yeah.
Like the good stuff.
The premium stuff?
Yeah. That's where vermicomposting comes in, right?
Exactly. Now we're talking.
Okay, tell me about it.
So that's where the worms come in.
Okay.
Red wigglers specifically.
Right.
They're like little compost machines.
Wow.
Break down that organic material,
okay,
and they create this supercharged compost.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's way richer in nutrients than the other methods.
Wait, so worm compost is actually better than regular compost?
It's the best. It's not just about the basic nutrients either. It's packed with plant growth hormones.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And compounds that boost disease resistance.
So it's like giving your garden a superpower.
Basically. It's like a vitality shot.
Okay, you've sold me on the benefits, but keeping worms.
Yeah.
Sounds a little intimidating.
Not at all. It's surprisingly easy.
Okay.
You just need a good bin, make sure it's got airflow,
Okay.
bedding, like shredded newspaper, and of course your red wigglers.
Of course.
And there are even pre-made systems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the Worm Factory 360.
Okay.
Super easy to use.
So I don't have to be like, I'm expert.
No.
Not at all.
That's good to know. Now, let's talk about speed. Because some people, they want results fast.
They do.
And I hear the Berkeley method is the way to go.
Oh, yeah, that's the fast track.
So what's the secret? What makes it so fast?
It's all about precision.
Okay.
Creating the perfect environment for those microbes.
Right.
The Berkeley method, it's got a specific mix of materials.
Okay.
A very precise carbon to nitrogen ratio.
Right.
And most importantly, you got to turn it a lot. Turned. How often are we talking?
Every other day.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's hands-on, for sure.
Right.
But you can get finished compost in as little as 18 days.
18 days. That's incredible.
It is fast.
But with all that effort, are there any downsides?
Well, it might not be the best for everything.
Okay.
Like, it's great for veggies.
Yeah.
But all that turning,
it
can disrupt the fungal networks that fruit trees like.
Oh, I see.
So it really depends on your garden.
It's like the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Interesting. So speed isn't always the answer.
No.
It's about finding the right fit.
Exactly. That's what's so cool about composting.
Yeah.
There's a method for everyone.
It's true.
In every garden. There really is a method for everyone in every garden. And just like finding the right method, you got to understand the ingredients for success.
Right. Like I've heard a lot about browns and greens.
Yes.
What's that all about?
It's like creating a balanced meal, but for your compost microbes.
Okay, so explain it to me like I'm 5.
Haha, all right. So browns, think dry leaves, straw, shredded paper.
Okay.
They're high in carbon, which gives those decomposers energy.
Ah, so browns are like the fuel.
Exactly. Now, the greens, kitchen scraps, grass clippings, coffee grounds,
Gotcha.
they're nitrogen rich, providing the building blocks for those microbes to, grow and multiply.
So browns are the fuel, greens are the building blocks.
Exactly.
And you got to have the right balance.
Yeah. Too much of one or the other throws things off.
Makes sense. So what's the ideal ratio?
Aim for about 2 to 3 parts browns to 1 part greens.
Okay, so 2 cups of leaves for every cup of kitchen scraps.
Perfect. Easy to remember, right?
Yeah, that helps. Now, I've definitely been guilty of tossing things in my compost that probably didn't belong.
Happens to the best of us.
What are some common no-nos?
Big one, no meat, dairy, or oily foods.
Okay, good to know.
Attracts pests, smells bad, messes up the composting process.
Right, it's not just a free-for-all. Speaking of, what about the environment the compost needs?
Yeah, moisture's key.
How do you know if it's too wet or too dry?
Think of it like a damp sponge.
Okay.
That's the sweet spot. Too wet, you get anaerobic conditions, not enough oxygen, things get stinky.
Like drowning the compost pile.
Exactly. Too dry, well, the microbes basically dehydrate.
So we got to keep it damp but not soggy.
Right. And don't forget about air.
Oh, right, air. How do we make sure there's enough of that?
Turning. You got to turn that compost.
Okay.
Like fluffing a pillow, introduces air, distributes moisture, keeps everything even.
So turning is key.
It's a workout for you and the compost.
Uh-huh. Love that. Speaking of working things out, let's talk about troubleshooting.
Yeah, things don't always go perfectly right.
Right. What if your compost just won't heat up?
That's a common one. Usually means there's an imbalance, maybe not enough moisture, or you're not turning enough.
Like a sluggish compost pile?
Pretty much. First, check that carbon to nitrogen ratio. Remember, 2 parts browns, 1 part greens.
Okay.
Then make sure it's damp and get that air flowing by turning it regularly.
Back to that balance, huh?
Always comes back to balance.
What about other problems like bad smells or pests?
Smells usually mean not enough oxygen, so turn it more, add some dry stuff.
Gotcha.
And for pests, bury those food scraps deep under the browns. Avoid attracting them with things like meat scraps.
Okay, starting to get the hang of this.
It's a process, for sure.
More nuanced than I thought.
It is, but the reward is worth it.
It is. So how do we know when it's ready?
When it's dark, crumbly, nice and earthy smelling.
Like good dirt.
Exactly. You shouldn't be able to recognize the original stuff anymore.
So we wait until it's all broken down in uniform.
Yep. And then the fun part.
Using it?
Yes. You can mix it into your soil, improve its structure, fertility, water retention.
Like a soil upgrade.
Exactly. Like a VIP treatment for your garden.
So compost is like a plant superfood. I'm starting to see why people get so into this.
Oh, yeah. You can also use it as a top dressing for your lawn, mulch around plants,
Yeah.
and for container gardening. Essential ingredient for a thriving potting mix.
Wow, compost really does it all.
It's a multitasker.
So we covered the basics, but I want to hear more about those advanced techniques, like bokashi composting.
Oh, yes, bokashi.
What's so special about it?
Remember how we said no meat or dairy in traditional composting?
Right.
Bokashi uses fermentation to handle all sorts of stuff, including those usually off-limit kitchen scraps.
Whoa, composting rebel. So how does this fermentation magic work?
You layer food scraps with bokashi bran. It's got all these good microorganisms in it.
Okay.
Then you seal it up, create an anaerobic environment, let it ferment for about 2 weeks.
Like pickling your kitchen scraps?
Basically.
What happens after the 2 weeks?
You bury the fermented stuff in your garden or add it to your regular compost pile.
So 2 steps. Why go the bokashi route?
Super efficient, almost no smell, and it handles those tricky materials.
Makes sense.
Plus, you can do it indoors.
Perfect for apartment dwellers like me. Bokashi's pretty cool. Any other advanced techniques?
Definitely. Hot composting is another one.
Hot composting, what is that?
Think of it as a compost sauna.
Yeah?
It gets super hot, speeds up decomposition, kills off any weed seeds or bad stuff.
Like supercharging the process.
Exactly. But you got to be careful. It takes monitoring the temperature, moisture, that carbon to nitrogen ratio.
Sounds intense.
It is. Like baking a souffle.
Uh-huh. I like that analogy.
Demanding, but rewarding.
So hot composting is for the serious composters.
It is. But it can give you incredible results fast.
Wow, we've covered so much today. Browns, greens, hot composting, bokashi. Composting really is a whole world.
It really is. And it's a world that has an impact beyond just our gardens, you know?
That's a great point. So how does composting affect the bigger picture?
Well, let's talk about that.
So we've seen how awesome composting is for our gardens, but how does it help the planet on a larger scale?
Well, think about all the waste we produce.
Yeah.
Composting helps reduce that waste big time.
Okay.
Instead of sending organic stuff to landfills, we compost it.
Right.
That means less trash piling up
Makes sense.
and less harmful greenhouse gases released.
Ah, so it's a win-win for the environment.
Exactly. Less waste, fewer emissions.
I like it. And what about the soil?
Oh, composting is amazing for the soil.
Right.
When we add compost,
Yeah.
it improves the soil structure,
Okay.
makes it more fertile, helps it hold water better.
So it's like giving the soil a boost.
It's like a revitalizing spa treatment for your soil.
Ah, I love that.
Healthier soil grows healthier plants,
Right.
and healthier plants lead to a healthier planet.
It's all connected.
It's a beautiful cycle.
This is making me want to start composting right now.
You should.
But I'm also thinking bigger,
Yeah.
like beyond my own backyard.
Okay.
What about composting on a community level?
That's a fantastic idea. Community composting is actually growing in popularity.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a great way to bring people together and
Yeah.
show what we can achieve when we work together.
So it's not just individual efforts, it can be a community thing.
Exactly. Imagine community gardens thriving with compost everyone helped create.
That's awesome.
These programs, they reduce waste, improve soil health,
Yeah.
but they also create a sense of community,
Right.
increase environmental awareness, encourage responsibility.
It's like composting is bringing people together.
It is. It shows how small actions multiplied across communities
Yeah.
can make a real difference.
I remember when I first started composting,
Yeah,
I was surprised by how much I learned about nature.
it's true. Composting connects you to the natural world.
It's more than just a gardening technique.
Right. You see the cycle of life unfolding right in front of you.
Exactly. And it's so rewarding to see those scraps turn into something valuable.
It really is magical.
This deep dive has been amazing.
I agree.
We talked about the science, the methods, the benefits,
All the different ways to compost.
and how composting helps the planet.
It's been a great overview.
It really has. It's clear that composting is more than just throwing scraps in a bin,
It's a journey, a learning process.
and it benefits us and the planet.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely. So what do you think? Will composting ever be as common as recycling?
I hope so. It would be amazing to see everyone composting.
I think so too. Well, we hope this episode has inspired you.
Yeah, get out there and explore the world of composting.
Experiment. Find what works for you.
Join the compost movement.
You might be surprised by how much you love it.
It's really rewarding.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into composting.
It's been fun.
We hope you learned something new and are ready to start your own composting journey.
Happy composting, everyone.
Until next time, happy decomposing.